Today's show is brought to you in partnership with Clearmotive Marketing. I co-founded this high-impact creative agency over 15 years ago. We deliver marketing that matters to our clients through our three-pillar approach. Number one, research that delivers actionable insights. Two, creative that attracts and engages new customers. And three, which is the backbone of our client success, the people, process, and technology that ensure efficient, consistent, high-quality results. We have great ideas and incredible creative, which is expected from a national agency. What makes us different is that we also simplify workflow, use technology to speed up projects, and recommend activities that achieve higher returns. There is a mountain of work that happens behind the scenes to produce what our clients take for granted, and that's exactly how we want it. Because great creative combined with well-organized operations is why we have such long-standing relationships. For example, Honda Canada has renewed their contract with us annually for the last 12 years. Our clients are market leaders, so they're incredibly competitive. Efficiency, performance, and consistent results are the only way to get to the top and to stay there. If you're not getting the consistent results you need, I can help. Reach out to me on LinkedIn or check out clearmotive.ca. Hello and a warm Collisions YYC. Welcome to my guest this morning, Mr. Ken Wilson. What's happening, Ken?
Hey, Tyler. Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for reaching out and get connecting. It's been a few years. You and I have had an opportunity to work together. It's Calgary, man. Everybody 1 degree, but we have actually worked together in a professional setting, and we became friends. And it's so good to kind of reconnect. And I was just saying, I was joking off air. You're like the perfect guest in the context of the company you work at, I've never heard about. The more I heard, the cooler it got. So many great Calgary stories that sometimes don't get told right here at home. And I don't want to overgeneralize because maybe a lot of people are like, what do you mean? I know about this company. I love telling these kind of stories because I think Calgary has a lot of hidden gems, has a lot of best kept secrets. And as a marketer, I don't like best kept secrets. I want everybody to know what we're doing. So let's open the door. Let's open the tent and get people, let them stick their nose in a little bit here. You are Vice President of Marketing at Network Innovations.
Yeah,
what is a Network Innovations? What do you guys do? What's it all about over there? And let's launch from there.
Yeah, great starters. So Network Innovations is a company devoted to helping connect people, places, and things. So we help organizations, entities of all sorts, governments, enterprise, you name it, in remote and hard to connect places, get connected, stay connected, so they can do their jobs, so they can complete a mission, so they can help a island get back on its feet after a devastating hurricane. You name it, we're there. It's been around since 1989. And you mentioned before we got on the call that you had never heard of it. Neither had I. So it is, I don't know about the best kept secret, but it was certainly a secret that I was unaware of. And old school, they were looking for a marketing leader, and I did my due diligence in looking for opportunities. And when I first met with them, I was sold. I liked the broader, higher noble mission, their higher purpose that they're on, and just had a great sense of the executive team that I met and all the rest. So it was a match made in heaven from my standpoint. Been here about 2 years, loving every day.
And I don't want to speak for you, but as a marketer, being excited about what you're marketing makes all the difference in the world. It certainly does for me. It does for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
From a global perspective, you guys are literally everywhere. It's a global company and global communication and missions to obscure parts of the world where you can't just pick up your phone and get a signal.
Yeah.
Do you have just a sense from how much balance of business actually is? I'm always curious, like how much business you do right here in Alberta versus is 90% of it everywhere else kind of thing, just from where the customers come from?
Yeah, I would say it's 90% everywhere else.
Okay.
I definitely, Canada is an important marketplace for us. We do have our fair share of business in our backyard, but we have business as far away as Malaysia, Australia, a lot in Europe. We do a lot of work in the United States. So I would say rest of world probably 90% and 10% a little more localized to Canada.
Okay, right on. I took that was a wild ass guess on the 90.
That was a good one.
You and I did have a little bit of a pre-chat, so I guess my brain was doing some imaginary math.
Yeah.
And is it safe to, did you guys start off like, 'cause I think about the amount of like, even what you said about people, places and things, from connectivity to just being able to actually communicate like one to one, like I need to call you to get an update, or I need to stay on top of them. You use the word mission very critically. I think lots involved with government and military around the world,
Yeah.
but we think about the amount of data that moves around. Like if I go from 89 up till now, did it start as like, we need a way to talk and now we need a way to move huge packets of data? Like just thinking about the evolution of even the problems that you are solving and how much more data flies around out there to use a very technical term.
Absolutely. It's certainly evolved. I mean, back in the old days, it was, we had a lot of military contracts, and it was more around telephony to help, people serving our country and others do things like welfare and morale communications. So,
Literally the call home to be able to actually talk to a loved one.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of the desert, in military theater, it's a little bit difficult to call home on Mother's Day, right? So that was where things started. But we're not a company that rests on its laurels. So we still, we're very still much in the satellite communications game. We're not the guys that have the satellites up in the sky. We partner with those large satellite companies. But we've evolved, and we've gotten into your point about just how, data movement and connectivity has become such a life line for business and organizations of all sorts. We have an Internet of Things offering. We're still in the satellite communications game, but it's really expanded in terms of complex networks, private networks. There's a lot of bad actors out there that are trying to hack into a utility grid or a government database and that sort of thing. So from private networking to satellite phones for remote workers and things like that, it's really a vast array that we've been able to help our customers.
I really appreciate you just touched on like bad actors, which I love that term for all the wrong reasons. And I guess I've watched too many war movies over the years, and even talking about it being in theater, the reality of cyber and the security threats that we face, and how important you're dealing with government and military, but you're dealing with large enterprise businesses where that data is, data is the new oil kind of, you've got both. You probably have a lot of energy companies that have data and they're dealing with like very, very like physical goods.
Yep.
How much has that evolved? Or I can only imagine that's a huge thrust for so much of your R&D is trying to stay ahead of the bad actors. It's literally an arms race, right?
Yeah, for sure. And private networks is a key part of our business. We have an entire business unit called Advanced Networks that just caters to those complex, multifaceted networking needs for organizations that need like secure data like you would not believe, right? Like, this isn't something that, an organization's concerned about. Maybe they're, an email slipping out. We're talking about dealing with government and military accounts where that is their reason for being, and we're a partner in that, and it's a pretty important and important role to play, and it's a privilege to be part of that in helping some of these clients.
Well, I also appreciate like the stakes are high. Like it's like, oh, geez, oh, we failed today, we'll get it right tomorrow. Like these are zero failure environments. Like these are zero error type critical criteria. So how competitive? Like getting back to the Ken the marketer, how competitive is this? Or is there a number of niche players? Because you don't dabble in this. You're either in or you're not. Like the barrier to entry, I feel, would be quite high from a competitive set. But the world is a big place. How competitive is this market?
It's a competitive market, like you would imagine anything related to tech and comms, right? Like there's a lot of companies out there that do similar things to what we do. What I would say is Network Innovations probably has the broadest range of capabilities of any company of which I'm aware. And, I would stack the subject matter expertise, just the brilliant people in our organization, I'd stack them up against anyone with respect to being able to solve those customer problems. Like I am on a daily basis gobsmacked at how brilliant people are at solving our customer problems and coming up with solutions to solve those challenges that they're facing. So yeah, there's competitors, but I really like our pardon me, our position in the landscape. The competitive landscape changes from continent and country to
service to vendor.
Yeah.
It's a moving grid, right? It's not like, oh, this is our grid and this is our positioning. Well, but as soon as we enter another space, there's a whole other slew of competitors potentially that are maybe one-offs or that's all they do is that one thing, which can be a strength and a weakness too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said earlier, there are other companies that they have partnerships with these big satellite guys like we do. Our secret sauce is not that. Our secret sauce is our people, and that is others can't replicate that, right? And again, as I said, I would put our team up against any best in the business.
So if I'm a potential customer, I'm going to oversimplify this, knowing that it's much more complex. Am I buying a product for you, or am I buying a solution through? And you've kind of said it, which alluded to me. Like it feels like this feels consultative. This feels like I have a comms problem of some kind, data, voice, whatever the point may be. You have 6 products in yourself. I want this one. I'm hearing that no, it's like I have a problem. You're the expert. Help me solve this problem. I don't even know what I need to think about here. Is it more the latter, or is it a bit of a blend of both?
It's the latter 100%. We have reseller agreements with a lot of different organizations that, we call ourselves system integrators. So
okay, that makes sense.
We've got best of breed access to, products and solutions out in the marketplace. Our secret sauce, again, is to that consultative approach, which you mentioned, is understanding that core problem so we can go away and design something that truly meets the needs in the most effective and efficient manner possible, right?
And as that system integrator, I'm going to make my own conclusion that you're probably a little bit technology agnostic. You probably are a value added reseller in a lot of sense of like, we know all the things that are out there that we could bring to bear, which often as a customer, I don't even know what's available, but it doesn't matter because if I have 3 different pieces of hardware and they don't actually work together to solve my problem, it's like buying a bunch of hardware sometimes makes a closet full of, or a warehouse full of hardware.
Yeah. Technology agnostic is absolutely core to the way we approach things. I was just speaking to one of our account managers yesterday about he's sort of zeroing in on the major enterprise utilities sector in North America, and his name is Wesley Robb, and he said, "Look, I ask questions. That's what I do for a living, right?" And it's really getting to understand the customer. It's really getting to understand the pain points. It's a cliche, but what keeps them up at night. And then we go away and work internally to bring up the right solution for that customer to solve those problems. At the end of the day, people either they make decisions based on trying to avoid pain or some sort of struggle in their life, or embrace something positive. We are trying to alleviate pain points for our customers, and we're trying to make their roles in their organizations a little bit more enjoyable by making their lives easier.
It's such a fine balance. You say, I love how you just presented that. Like the research would show loss aversion is more powerful than the potential of gain. I'll avoid losing $5, even if the potential is I could make 8, but I'm like, oh, that 5 is like that pain. And as a marketer, playing those messages are really tricky because you can sometimes come off as doomsday negative, but yet psychologically, that's what gets our attention because it's hardwired into us to go like, ooh, there's a fire over there. I need to run. I need to get away from that. There's risk. There's danger. So hardwired. Our lizard brains are running around making crazy decisions all the time for good reason. So talk to me a little bit about so consultative, so solution, like so in the room as a marketer and so many different segments and different customers with, geography and cultural nuance. Talk to me like, what's the foundation under that from a marketing perspective? Like there's a pyramid and there's probably a bunch of points on the pyramid, but for you as a marketer coming into this organization, how did you start to look at like, wow, okay, we've got to be one thing, but knowing that we're a bunch of different things to individual segments? How did you how did you start formulating a plan? Me assuming that that's what it looks like.
Yeah, you're spot on, and I won't lie to you when I say to you that when I first came in, I'm going, holy smokes, how do we? What's the elevator pitch here? Right?
Yeah.
That's the really tricky aspect because if you can imagine the breadth of the vertical markets that we are privileged to work with, everything from enterprise like an oil and gas, big pipeline operation to an NGO to a military special ops. We've got workers with special clearances in this company that I can't hardly talk to them, let alone know what they're working on, right? Like
Literally, sorry, Ken. I'd love to talk to you, but it's classified. Like literally.
that sort of clearance,
Yeah.
right? So as a marketer, when you're trying to um, encapsulate that, I guess, into a common, brand message foundation, it's tricky. So
Yeah.
it didn't become about what we do, but how we do it and with
Okay.
whom we do it, right? And so again, that secret sauce is um, the care and comfort that our people genuinely have in solving our customer problems. So the problem could be dealing with an NGO to help an island get up on its feet after a hurricane, or it could be preventing bad actors from, doing some bad stuff to a utility grid, to you name it, right?
Yeah.
The core thing there is that we're side by side with our customers trying to solve those problems. So our tagline used to be "Succeed Anywhere," and when I came in, um, it was fine, but it almost sounded like table stakes to me, and it didn't talk about our people. So we shifted gears. I went through an exhaustive brand messaging exercise with the exec, with all levels of people in our organization. And we shifted gears, and our tagline evolved into meeting your mission with passion. Because you need to think of mission in a broader sense. It's not just a military mission. Whatever type of organization you're in, you have some sort of thing you're doing. We are generalizing that by calling it a mission, but the main thing I want to express there is that we do it collaboratively with them. So we're meeting their mission with our passion, and that can't be replicated, right? So it's a generic tagline on purpose because of the breadth of things we do and the verticals that we serve, but it really became foundational, and it was a rallying cry for our own people because sometimes forest for the trees, you kind of lose sight of if you're in the trenches day in day out, whether you're putting together an IoT edge box or you're working in our knock or whatever that is, you may lose sight of that higher purpose that we're all working toward. The brand messaging helps remind that. So it was much of a rallying cry for our own folks to remind them on a daily basis that, you know what, guys, the stuff you do really matters.
I've always said this. So, you and I are saying, as we often have, your first audience for any of this stuff is always your internal team. It's so easy to get lost in marketing about, the customer that I don't know and I haven't got yet and they're way out there. And if I find them, my life will be awesome. But we step over our team, our vendors, our partners, sometimes even our existing customers, the ones that are already chose to be invested to do some campaign that's way over here. I love that you said our first rallying cry, our first audience was our internal team.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you're up to your eyeballs in tech, I could see where sometimes it might be easy to forget what you were showing. What did we even show up to do? Well, we're trying to sort through this mess of why I'm exaggerating and I'm making the cartoon version. Sorry, what were we doing again? As there's piles of gear all around you in the middle of a room.
Yep.
And just curious, the nuts and bolts. How did you roll that out? How big's the company? How many people? Let's get some context.
So we're about 250, 260.
Okay. And fairly dispersed.
Very dispersed, yeah. So corporate offices in Calgary. We've got several offices throughout United States, and then in Europe and Malaysia and some other locations in between those. But yeah, about 260 or so right now. We've grown considerably over the last 3 to 4 years for sure.
Oh, nice. Okay. How did you go about rolling that out? Like I'm down in the weed. I'm down in the mechanics of this thing, but it's so important because people go, oh, we're going to switch our brand or we're going to do something. That's the hard / easy part, getting it out there and getting it to be relevant, and people that weren't involved in the process to all of a sudden go, I kind of like the old one. I don't know why we had to change it. Like, that's just reality. How did you go about, what was a little bit of or did you have any specific tactics that really worked and really helped based on your culture?
Yeah, no, great question. So it was a very inclusive process where we started out with a perception survey internally, right? Hmm. What do you think we do and why does it matter? Because I think, in not too distant history, there was some confusion around what we do because people contextualize what the company did based on their own business unit or their role. And there wasn't that kind of beacon of light to see how it all kind of fits together, right? So we did a current state survey about, the nuts and bolts of it was, what do you think we do? Why do you think it matters? Why do our customers call on us? That sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And that survey process probably included about a quarter of the company, so a fairly healthy sample size.
You beat me. You beat me to my next question is how was participation? Because sometimes those can be tough. I'm busy. I don't have time. I'll get to it later, and boom, it gets forgotten.
They were all in, Tyler.
Okay,
cool. It was great. We had great participation because
that's awesome.
They knew it mattered. They knew it's important work. So we had great participation. Then the fun is distilling all of that because you get that, you get the 40 or 50 survey responses back. And now the fun is sitting down and looking for those common elements, right? And so that took me a while. And then, as you and I know from my past background, sort of hanging a bit of a consultant hat, the brand messaging thing has been part of my toolkit for several years. So I went away and developed a first draft. And then as we iteratively moved along in the process, we first included the exec team to get that buy-in, that feedback. I made some adjustments based on it. And then we brought in the next group that had participated in the survey. And then ultimately at our virtual sales conference last January, we rolled it out to the entire company. So all along the way, there were checks and balances in terms of, does this sound like us? Because when we did this exercise, I had only been with the company, less than a year. I think there's good value in having a fresh set of eyes look at things, but I was missing that historical context. So the feedback from people that have been around the company for 20 years and the newer ones, it was really interesting how it all coalesced. And then I really felt like things were on the right track.
I really love what you said, because I would definitely argue that being an outsider was valuable as long as you don't trip up thinking you have more answer, like that you know more. Right. It's a very delicate balance to being the consultant in that role.
Oh, you've
got an outside perspective, but to think that you know the company better than someone who's been there for 20 years, well, it's a good way then to have you. It's a good way to get dismissed as a consultant or as a new marketing leader coming into a new role.
Yeah, for sure.
I know better because I'm a marketer. I know better because I've been here for 20 years. So you can F off. Exactly. and then you just get shut down. And I've seen a lot of branding initiatives not be inclusive enough or be too prescriptive, and they ultimately fail. Like an old creative director I used to work with, he's like, permissibility. You come up with the best thing in the world, but if the people you're presenting it to don't give you permission to say that, be that, act that way, it's dead. And that always stuck with me.
Yeah, 100%. And the way I look at it, that like marketing is a service function for this organization. So we ultimately, we have thousands of customers that we help every day. But my first customer that the marketing department serves is our internal folks, right? They're the lifeline out to the front line. I always enjoy the opportunity to speak to customers, going to trade shows, having calls to get their input, but they're the ones living and breathing that every day. So we need them. They need us also, but we need them as that conduit, pun intended, to ensure that how we're representing the company is accurate and tells the right story.
Curious, I heard this at a conference years ago, stuck with me. And it was a B2B conference. They said, as a VP of marketing, if you don't know what your head of sales or VP or sales director takes in their coffee, you're failing as a marketing director at that company.
Yep.
In your organization, who's your partner? And I know you work with everybody, but is it that VP of sales? Is it that, like, I love what you said, in service, that it's so powerful and sometimes gets forgotten about in the marketing. It's why I think CMOs sometimes are getting beat up as of late, even more so. Every second article is how the CMO role is being eliminated and why that is happening, but also where it can lead us. Who's your co-part? Like, who is your I'm in service of? Is it sales? Is it that cut and dry?
It's fairly cut and dry. It's a little more expanded than that. So okay. The way we're structured is we have 5 commercial business units, and those are all I consider to be my customers, right?
Your clients. I love that because you are in service. You just happen to be inside the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a central service function. We've got 5 commercial business units. Each of those business units has a president, and then they all also have sales leaders. So I would say that the main people that I interact with tend to be the presidents of those business units and their top salespeople, be it a VP of sales, a director, that sort of thing. I also take pride in having relationships with, the sales reps themselves, the account managers, because even, the BU heads and the VPs, they're pretty connected to the customer for sure. But if you want the straight goods, it's the folks on the front line dealing with these customers day in, day out. That's where you get your feedback.
Where customer obsession, you got to be a customer obsessed, you have to be close to the customer. It can't even be 1 degree of separation. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
When you think about, and this is always something that has been a challenge in the B2B space, is we've got different customers. And like when one customer goes, "Oh, you work with military," that could turn me off because I'm not relevant to that. When you think of your 5 business units, aside from your core, supporting message that underpins it all, which I really appreciate that, is it very much like marketing 5 different businesses based on the customer, based on, I'm assuming there's a lot of, you have to really prove your credibility in that sector for a new customer to take you seriously.
Yeah, it is a challenge for sure. So our business units are fabricated in a slightly different manner too. So We've got 2 business units that are geographic based, 2 that are vertical market based because they're such important markets for us, and 1 that is a bit of a hybrid. And that's that advanced networks group that I talked about earlier. So they have a revenue figure that they're reaching, or they're trying to achieve, but they're also a resource to other business units as this group of technical networking experts that can solve, the most complex stuff. So from a marketing standpoint, it can be a little tricky because, definitely the breadth of the verticals and the geography, but just the number of different contexts that we need to work within. So here's a tactical example. As you know, as a marketer in the United States, from an email marketing standpoint, it's still kind of the Wild West. Like you can get away.
No castle compliance not required.
Yeah, you can get away with some stuff in the United States that, for instance, in Europe would be with GDPR. It would be like, this is a fatal sin, right? Yeah. So as a marketer, we need to apply that overlay of the differences within those operating regions, especially when it comes to geographies, right?
Yeah.
And then you're factoring in cultural differences and so on and so forth. You can imagine the cultural differences between dealing with customers in Kuala Lumpur and Houston, Texas. Yeah. It's a very different philosophy, right?
And in marketing and comms, nuance and cultural nuance matters.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, shame on you. You mess up. Just even with one of our larger clients here, we do a lot of work in Quebec. We have translators that are in Quebec that are also industry specific in the motorsports industry, because you use any kind of humor or nuance or wittiness, and you try to translate that. If you're not from there, you're finished. And that market specifically will literally throw you out. They'll send you packing.
Yep.
if you make that faux pas.
Yep.
And rightfully so. If you can't respect your customer enough to speak in their own language and culture, then what are you doing?
That's right. Yep.
But that's like, agreed. You and I say that and we high five and agree. But when the rubber meets the road, that's it. Like, that's tactically very challenging. Like, it's just another layer of like, okay, we got to think about this layer of it. Just curious, how big's your team from a marketing? You guys are 250, 260. You came on a couple of years ago. What kind of resources do you have internally to support this?
We're a fairly lean team.
I sense that, Ken. I sense that.
So on our core marketing team, the Marcom side, we're a team of 5.
Okay.
I also have product management and NPI, new product introduction, that we work very closely with as well. So I've got 3 product managers. One is dedicated to IoT, and then we've got another one around our voice, our push to talk, it's called. And then our third one is around airtime. And that person, their main role is dealing with the large satellite operators to ensure that we're positioned in the best way possible with various airtime packages that we pass along to our customers. And then, of course, when we're not a company that rests on its laurels, from an NPI standpoint, we take a look at perhaps what technology has been successful in one part of our business, and can we expand that into other parts of the business. So it's about an internal looking glass. It's been successful here. Can it be successful in other parts of the company, in other geographies? Yes or no? That needs assessment. And then we're key to getting that ready to roll out to other parts of the company.
Very cool. I love that you brought up product marketing, product management. As an old school and someone who's been in the marketing game for a while, like you and I have. Not to get into age, just we've been doing it for a while.
Started when I was 7. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was like. Man, he was super. He was a keener, prodigy, 12-year-old. Play concerts and do marketing on the side. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You and me both. The rise of product marketing and the rise of product management is in the world of this technology space. For you as a marketer, was that a natural fit? Was it a natural that you go, whoa, okay, I need to learn about this. I really need to understand the difference. Or was there a lot of similarities? Just curious of your own journey, as you can't throw a stick right now without getting hit in Calgary with someone looking for a product marketing or product management role. And we have a bit of a gap here around those, especially that 5 to 10 year experience range, as I've been told by a lot of startups. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What I would say is, when Network Innovations first said, hey, Ken, can you take this on too? The first thing I did, because I'm a researcher at heart, is I read a book. And my big takeaway from reading that one book on product management is, like, there's tons of processes and all the rest, but at the end of the day, product management is about understanding what the customer requires and aligning that with what we have. That's a really simplistic way. Yeah. And, so have you heard of the Pragmatic Institute? They've got a series.
Yes, I have. I've had it recommended to me a couple times by a few different people.
I took 2 or 3 modules on product management, as did my team. And it's interesting they call themselves Pragmatic, because they do apply a very practical, hands-on way of looking at product management. It's not theoretical. So
I love that. That's definitely my love language.
Yeah. So the 3 product managers and myself went through a couple of those modules. That definitely helped. My earlier description about the simplicity of understanding what customers want and aligning with what we have or could potentially have, as simple as that is, that's the gist of it, right? And it's around dialing in the best ways to get the information, so you're not making guesses, right? So that's been the approach so far, and it seems to be working.
which I, again, not to just to like give you high fives and say good game here, but I agree so much. And so like, oh, it's so different than normal marketing. I'm like, is it? If you're doing it well, you need to understand who's your ideal customer, what do they care about, what problems are you solving. I understand that now in the world of technology, you're applying it so much more directly, but we've always been a features and benefits type world. Like the thing does this, does the customer care about it?
Yep.
And how do I communicate it in a way that the customer goes, oh, that's the problem it's going to solve. I struggle to see how it's that different. I know that, and again, I'm going to get slapped on this. If I get hate mail, that's okay. That means they're listening. But it's being more obsessed and being better at that. But it doesn't feel that different than what we should have been doing as marketers in the first place, in my opinion.
No, you're right, and I'll use the term due diligence, a little tongue in cheek, because a lot of times that term is associated with things like finance and making sure, like, if you're acquiring a company, you're doing your due diligence, looking under every rock. But as marketers in product management, etc., you're doing your due diligence. You're asking the questions. Again, I was talking to this sales rep the other day. He said, all I do is ask questions. And that's on purpose, because I need to understand their business as well as they do to help. Whether you're a marketer writing web copy or a product manager trying to assess whether we've got the right feature set based on what we feel are the customer's needs, there's the common link is the customer requirement, right?
Yeah.
So we're big on what's that use case? How do we help, right? We had a sales conference recently, and we tend to have a theme every year we do a sales conference, and this year was around the notion of noble purpose and integrity, right? And there's a book out there that I highly recommend. If you've never read it, it's a good one. It's by Lisa Earle McLeod, and it's called Selling with Noble Purpose. And she followed up and she did another book, Leading with Noble Purpose. And the basic tenet is, what I feel all companies should be doing any day, every day, regardless, is solving that customer problem. But when you tie it into that higher purpose, when those sales reps understand that what they're doing is helping an island get up from a devastating hurricane, or save a child in the middle of the wilderness, whatever that is, the basic tenet of that book is that sales reps that understand that they're part of something bigger are more successful, and they sell more things because they truly care about solving those customer problems. As marketers, I dial that into marketing with noble purpose, right? So we got all sorts of products and solutions and services that we can access. What are we helping our customers with? That's my question. That's the only thing that matters.
You almost have no choice but to go there because you have such a broad set of offerings. If you only sold one thing, it probably wouldn't be as mission critical, but because you are a true solutions provider, that's where you can literally get lost in, like, I can't promote my whole not that you have a catalog, but if you have 10,000 things in your catalog, you're selling the bigger gift of being a customer for you. It's not that I can do one item at a time. Just to over exaggerate that from the world of, like, well, I'm selling widgets. I got 6 widgets. I'm going to sell them 6 ways differently. You have so many versions, like that flow chart of, like, I have a conversation with a client. It goes here. It goes here. It goes, like, it's a bit of a spider web, I imagine.
It is. A recent example that I find interesting is, so we have one of our business units caters to the maritime sector, right? So everything from, a luxury yacht like Elon Musk would own to, a tugboat operator to a naval fleet, right? You can imagine the connectivity issues out when you're on the open sea. After you're past 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, there's nothing out there, right?
So you're on your own, gents. Ladies and gents. And that's not a secure way to run any business.
No, and it's a highly regulated business where sea operators, all sorts of vessels have to report back, regulatory bodies, certainly back to shore, to their own organizations. That's a huge communications challenge. But we have a line of, a service group that also helps service the boats. It could be helping repair a sonar system or some other type of comms, right down to other forms of servicing on boats that isn't connected to communications. And they were saying, well, I don't really get noble purpose with respect to what I do. I'm just a tech working on a boat. And I'm going, no, you're not. You're ensuring that that boat is operating as well as it can so that that crew can get back home safely, that it can do its job out on the water and get back to their families. So you can always connect the dots to a noble purpose. There's no problem with that.
Isn't there an old story? And I got to do my research, but it was some interviewer was kind of marauding around at NASA and he sees an individual that's sweeping the floor and he walks over and goes, "Hey, what do you do here?" He goes, "I put people on the moon." And like, that's what I'm hearing in my mind. I'm like, there's a story and I don't even know where it's some urban legend somewhere.
I know that story. It's an urban legend. It's an urban legend about,
is it? Okay. All right. Thank you.
About JFK, and JFK was touring a plant, not a plant, sorry, touring NASA.
Yeah, and, mission control, right?
Yeah, and apparently this exchange occurred. In fact, when I wrote our employer brand messaging, I cited that anecdote. I have no idea if it's true or not.
Me neither.
But it's got mild.
But like any good marketer, or maybe my mom taught me, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Thank you for having more details, because I'm like, I got to go and find out where that comes from, because every once in a while it comes up. And what I love about a good anecdote like that is it's so easy, and it's so easy to connect to going, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
Yep.
Back to how a good story kind of almost bypasses that critical conscious mind and just goes, oh yeah, okay, I get it. I get that one.
Yeah.
I appreciate how you brought that in. And so just because we're on the marketing train here, which I love, I love being on this train. Tactically, are you guys using social media? Are you using channel partners? Are you using paid? Obviously you've got a digital presence because you have to. Just what are some of the mechanics or maybe the plumbing around what you've used to, because I really understand the thinking and the mechanisms and the culture and the nuance of who we are and how we work. What do you use tactically to get that out there?
Yeah, great question. So social for sure. Depending on the context of our business, that can mean different things. Generally speaking, the business to business part of us is LinkedIn is king, right? We do have other accounts on other platforms. That tends to be more around sharing corporate culture, as a bit of a draw with respect to hiring and retaining great folks. But there are some nuances to that too. For example, what we loosely call our white boat business, the yachts, that field of the maritime side. Instagram is much more prevalent because, we're not necessarily dealing with the rich individual that owns the yacht. They all have yacht management companies.
They have cruising companies. Yeah.
But those folks are following Instagram, right? So we can't paint a generic brush. Oh, we're B2B. We're going to just be on LinkedIn. So we individualize it where it makes sense, right? Obviously, the digital world, due to the breadth of where we are and what we do, is very, very important. But it's also important to understand where our customers and future customers are. And what I've seen since, COVID lockdowns is an incredible resurgence in trade show attendance. Trade shows over the last year and a half, 2 years, record attendance, right? And so it's old school, it's offline, but we do participate in a lot of sector trade shows, because what we see is that's where our customers and future customers
are. Every channel is relevant if that's where your customers are. This whole, it's old, it's new, and that's outdated. If your customers in a movie theater, then go advertise a movie theater. If your customers are riding the bus, advertise on a bus bench. Like, that's more complex because it's actually more for people driving around than people sitting on the bus bench, but I retract that one. But it's this whole, this is dead and this isn't. It's all relevant to your customer. In my opinion, it's irrelevant to what I think it is or isn't.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love how we'd like to. Oh, this is the rumor of my death is grossly overstated. I think that applies a lot of marketing.
Yeah, but then if we do an offline event like a trade show, we want to make sure that we make more of a holistic campaign around it. So
Surround the customer.
yeah, so that's the anchor event, but we do lead up stuff and post event stuff, and we kind of make it, wrap it up A to Z, right? So
I think that's often where trade shows get a quote unquote bad rap. I spent all this time and it didn't work. What did you do to capture leads? What did you do to prime what did you do to get people excited before? Were you speaking at the event?
Mhm.
Did you follow up after? Did someone take that imaginary bag? Like I've heard the story, which you've probably heard. Oh, I took on this new job and I found a bag full of business cards in the back of the desk drawer from a trade show from 2 years ago.
Yep.
Like, is the trade show bad, or is the execution, to your point, around really being holistic and thinking about it as almost like a campaign, not an event?
Yep.
Big difference on who goes, wow, that trade show was amazing, we got some great quality leads, to like, there was a bag of business cards somewhere. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no,
I've seen that bag. Like, we have this from last year. What should we do with it? I'm like, all right, let's talk about that. But that's that you just told me a lot about what's going on.
Well, and you just opened up an interesting topic in my mind when you talk about leads, because let's say that, we do a lead scanning technology wherever we can. Not all shows have them. Some of the smaller ones don't. But
yeah,
let's say, for argument's sake, we get a list of 30 scanned leads from a show. How do we track that prospect journey a year from now?
Yep.
Where they reach out to our website and fill out a form saying, hey, I'd like to talk to somebody about X. It's sometimes difficult to attribute that back to the original source, right?
Yeah.
So as marketers, we look at simplistic KPIs like cost per lead. Our job is to get the leads in the door, and then they're a little bit out of our control with respect to the sales cycle length and who's involved in the account, the complexity, all the rest, right?
Right.
But the way I've always looked at it is, if I can give the company a pretty full pipe of leads, then we can do some basic math to say we think a certain percentage will eventually turn, right?
Yep.
But it becomes garbage in, garbage out. If the salespeople entering in the information in the CRM are not attentive to where that contact came from in the first place, then measurement becomes difficult.
It is that marketing qualified lead to the sales qualified lead, and that ability and like the panacea of attribution that I think we all dream about. And sometimes there's like, oh, we can attribute all the way from a Facebook click to a sale. That is tough. And I've yet to find an organization. I've seen some that do it better than others, but everybody does struggle, because if there's a human point somewhere where someone has to enter something, it's a point of failure. It just is. Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're mixing offline stuff with online stuff. If you're a SaaS play and everything is in the digital world,
and I'm putting in a credit card to make a purchase at the end, it's way more trackable. Yeah,
totally. Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and they're talking about, oh, do you ever do like shared revenue or upside models with your clients? I said, only if it's e-commerce. Other than that, it's too many. You spend all your time trying to figure out who actually contributed to what versus actually doing the job. It forces you to actually put time in the wrong place, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Unless it's like an e-commerce. And if we are selling pens, Ken, we will count the number of pens sold and what it costs to sell them, and we'll have our number. But I've yet to work anywhere that's that simple.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd probably get bored if I know me. So just as a marketer, I love the energy, and, because I've known you for a while, and you bring all of you to your roles, which I love. And I see that in spades, the way you speak about this company and how in depth how much of an investigator you were to get to the knowledge that you have being there for a short time. Looking forward, is it, excitement for where the company's headed? Is it excitement for where the world of marketing's headed? Like what's blowing your hair back, Ken?
Definitely where the company is headed. We've got some BHAGs that, nice. at the end of the day, that's what gets me jumping out of bed, to know that what marketing's role is in helping achieve some of those BHAGs around, whether it's growth or increased dominance in a certain vertical market that we feel we can really help. That's exciting for me. The world of marketing, I've been a lifelong marketer, and
yeah, we're lifers.
Yeah, we're lifers, and that's it's a passion. It comes out every day. I try to instill that with my team, It's kind of a lead by example thing. And the world of marketing is both exciting and perplexing, honestly, because
that's an honest answer.
because there are so many things coming into fray around how is AI going to impact marketing?
Yes.
Should it? Integrating your MarTech stack alone is a problem that I know a lot of companies have. So there's a lot of challenges that we as marketers face today that I don't think we'd even dreamt of 10 years ago. And it's a little perplexing, but it's also very exciting for me because I like to find solutions to problems. It's funny. We just went through this leadership kind of exercise. There's this book by Patrick Lencioni called "The Six Working Geniuses," and there's a survey.
I don't know that one.
Yeah. So there's this survey that you take, and then the basic premise is there's 6 different working geniuses, and every individual has 2 natural state working geniuses, 2 adequate competencies, and 2 frustrating working geniuses. Not something you suck at, just like it sucks the life out of you to do it, right?
It doesn't energize you.
Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
And so my 2 were invention around creating a novel way to attack a problem, and discernment, which is around intuition. So it's somebody that likes data but is also pretty comfortable with going on their gut feel, right? And in terms of some of the things I see happening in marketing, I think those are 2 good skill sets for me too. I'm glad I have those because I'm naturally curious, and I want to understand how, for example, AI may help my organization, my team, but I want to do that in a really thorough way. That just instead of just jumping in, we use AI and it's great, So that working genius thing really helped me. They say the power of know thyself, right? So
yes.
Understanding myself helps me, I guess, interpret the world that's happening around me with respect to marketing, and it's a fun ride, man.
That's great. I really love how you broke that down, and it's there's no dull days if you keep paying attention and you're curious. I love the word curiosity. I work hard every day to make sure that it is my superpower and I use it, and it is a muscle that you can practice. And there is no more exciting time, verging on overwhelming, to be in any career, but marketing is not being spared for sure. I listened to a webinar last week, and at the end, she's like, here's my top 25 AI tools that I use. And this was an agency out of Texas. By like 12, I stopped writing them down. I was just like, I just got I was excited and floored at the same time. I was like, okay, I'm just going to grab 3 and go and check those out. And it was everything from creative to research to marketing to setting up virtual, research groups. It was insane what was the art of the possible. And I love technology. I'll tell a little story. I kind of miss the internet. I thought it was back when younger me was like, this is silly. I'm not going to spend any time with it. I'm not going to make that mistake ever again, Ken.
I think it's
so when I see something new technology, I go after and be like, why are you so into this? I'm like, because I learned a very valuable lesson about thinking I knew something, minimizing something I should have never minimized. Younger me had his head in his ass a little bit, but hey, that's okay. That's okay. Ken, what's the best way to get a hold of you? This is a great chat, man. Like really, I knew it was going to be good. You kind of blew me away. This was really awesome. I loved it.
I've had a great time too. So my work email is first name dot last name. So ken.wilson, no weird spellings there.
Nice.
At networkinnovations.com. So
amazing. Thanks for throwing that out there. And obviously you're on LinkedIn, and check out the website if you're really curious about the company. Really cool story. And I landed on, what was it, in 2000? You guys were the first video broadcast via Mount Everest. Like there's some cool stuff in your history, as I was doing a little professional creeping here earlier today of just the evolution. So if you're even curious about this world, I would recommend checking this company out. Very, very cool. I was happy to get a little bit of a view inside the tent as we go back to the beginning.
It's been a great chat. It's so nice to catch up with you, Tyler.
My pleasure. And hey, we got to catch up and record it and share it with the world. What a great, this is a podcasting. Just two guys hanging out, chatting away. Ken, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.